Should be really easy to use that. Dun dun
Dun dun. When the
clock
strikes 12. So we just want to talk about something that's become top of mind. We think it'd be frankly quite useful for our listeners here on ABQ Business Podcast.
ABQ as a leader.
Yep, as a leader. Jason, well, let's talk about a chain. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
The chain is only as strong as the weakest link. But what happens when that weakest link tries to like cover it up or really not, show their weakness? What they don't know is that they're doing a disservice to the rest of the chain that's really holding their shit together.
Yeah, it's almost if you've ever heard of BUDS training in SEAL teams, it's almost like the guy that they have to carry the boats and they walk around and they have to spend days and days no sleep out in that gritty sand. The sand sticks to you. Salt. It's San Diego. Water's absolutely freezing at night.
Yep.
And then they're rolling around in the sand. I mean, they have to make it as uncomfortable as possible. Sleep deprive you. Yeah. But there are guys that learn that if they don't pick the boat up as much, and they let everybody else take the weight. Yep. They can kind of almost take a rest like this, holding their hands up. People can't see this because it's just audio. But you got to picture people holding a boat up with their hands. So they're not holding as much. Then you have the guy who's just giving it his all. He's got most of the weight on the boat. He's on the back of the boat or on the front of the boat. And he goes and rings the bell because he's totally exhausted.
Yeah.
And then the guy that just kind of skates through, does the bare minimum, he becomes a SEAL.
Yeah, I know.
But here's the situation. Here's what always happens.
Tell me.
That shit gets revealed over time.
Of course it does. You can't time the great equalizer.
Yes.
Right? Truth always wants to come out of the darkness. And there will be a crack in someone's personality.
Mm-hmm.
For as long as I've known you, I've seen
lots of cracks.
No, I
have gold interfilled in there, which makes it better.
Rutilations.
I've seen the Instagram.
For as long as I have known you, I have not seen anything that otherwise wasn't just already there for me to see. You haven't hidden anything from me. You've always just been.
Well, we're like super transparent with each other, though.
That's my point.
Right.
But the dynamic, the knowingness, the strength of the relationship that you and I have,
right,
because of that, right? There's no question of trust between you or I.
No, not at all.
Not one bit.
No, see,
and frankly, at the end of the day, you and I are strangers.
Yeah, well, everybody's a stranger.
Everybody's a stranger. But the thing is, there's a strength to our strangership.
Yeah, you're the CEO, I'm CMO. So whenever we look at this, we're both in leadership positions. Mm-hmm. We're leading people. I lead totally different than you lead.
Yeah.
And other people on Tartle, and we encourage people to sign up, take control of your data, tartle.co.
That'd be awesome. Totally free. Make money.
But this is really, really important because I want people to understand that. And I'm glad you said cracks, because cracks are the guy that is not. You have people in your organization that are kind of halfway holding the boat up.
Right.
And they're going to halfway hold the boat up if you allow that to happen. If they think that they can get away with it, they're going to get away with it. So how do you all of a sudden have a big spotlight on that person and then shine it on them to reveal their cracks? They'll do it to themselves with ego.
You know what I used to do? So I used to row. I used to be a rower.
Oh, this is a perfect example.
Crew teams. And I was always I was most of the time taller than everybody else.
Right.
I'm 6'5", and we're all pretty tall. Generally over 6
feet. You can't be over 6 foot. I mean, you have to be over 6 foot.
Right? Yeah, it's fixed. It's physics, more leverage. So, and I would always end up holding the boat on my shoulder. And I'm exhausted. I just rode 16 miles. My hands are bleeding. Why is it that there's 8 other people, but all the weight's on my... I understand that I'm taller, and you know what I used to do? Fucking just drop the boat. It's a $55,000 shell. And then the people that weren't doing jack have to step up and take responsibility for not dropping that asset.
Yeah.
And I was the captain.
Right.
I'm just going to drop it. I know you're slacking. I can physically feel it.
You can feel it, yeah.
There's pressures on this chain that you can feel. And you can also feel those dynamics amongst people and their personalities.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, 100%.
And when those cracks come through, well, then how do you how you expose it? You just give them all the responsibility. You put the ball right in their court. If that's dropping the shell, if that's giving them the TIG welder to fix the chain, whatever it might be, you put the ball in their court. Hey, how are you going to do it? And when are you going to do
it? If it's they need to fire somebody that they don't want to because they're friends with them, and that person's taking advantage of the situation. There's so many things. I agree with you 100%. That's the shining the light on it. I think
you have to
like
you can't ignore it.
Yeah. So when you're looking at a team, and you have a group of people, and everyone that's listening to this is in a leadership position, whether you're a manager at a big box store, or whether you own your own company, or you're a solo entrepreneur and you're hiring contractors to do stuff for you. Yeah. That you're a leader.
Yes.
If you have a girlfriend, a partner, a wife, a husband, you're a leader.
If you have people that look to you to take care of them.
If you have a dog.
If you have a dog, you're a leader. Yeah.
So this is for everyone. Whenever you're dealing with a team member, especially one that is kind of halfway holding the boat, or like you said, you can feel the pressure.
You can feel the pressure increasing on you.
One of the things that happens, I think, that a lot of people will do, and I used to do this a lot, is I would take it personally as a leader. So I would get emotional about it.
Yeah.
And I would take it personally because they're doing something. I'm feeling that they're doing something against me.
Right.
And then, like you said, I'm 6'5", and so the leverage goes, so I'm holding all the boat here. They've done 16 miles too. They're tired. So like, oh, Alex has got this. I can just relax,
Correct.
And nothing against them. It's just people take the least path of resistance constantly.
Constantly.
It's really rare that someone says, I want to go up that mountain.
I know.
And this looks like a challenge to me.
I know this is going to be painful.
Or else, we'd have people climbing mountains all over the world constantly.
I know, but we don't.
No,
it's path and pressure needs to be evenly distributed. Okay, if it's not, the foundation of your home is going to be wrong. Your business is going to be wrong. Dynamics amongst people will be wrong. Pressure has to be evenly distributed through responsibility.
Yes.
If that responsibility is not clearly delineated, if there's not great awareness amongst all people for who's responsible for what, you're going to feel people removing pressure from themselves. It has to be so abundantly clear. And if they don't follow up with it, drop the boat. And I say that mean force them to take the responsibility. Because if you don't do that, you are allowing them to continually take advantage of a situation that not only inhibits you, it inhibits them, but everybody else that's inextricably interlinked with everyone in that process.
Yeah, and I can remember when I first was, what you said is perfect, and it goes along with so I got emotional. So my next step, and you know me as my personality, my next step is to blow up and to cause carnage. So it's like, so here's what I used to do as a young leader. I would call them into my office, go off on them, and then fire them.
Yeah.
And then they would be like, some would cry.
Yep.
Some would get pissed off and leave. Most of them would stay there like in shock. Like they're just sitting at me like, what the fuck is happening to me right now? Mm-hmm. And then I'd be like, haha.
Gotcha.
I got you like a scared little dog.
Right.
Now with my power, all the power I can mold on you. But here's the problem.
Tell me.
You can only do that so many times. I'm thinking of a person now I literally fired like 8 times. And they got comfortable being in that abusive situation because it's abusive mentally.
Yeah.
They got comfortable. So they know, so then it became like, oh shit, Jason just paged me to come into his office.
Here we go.
Wonder who's going to get fired.
Subconscious
but
shakes.
People would make jokes about it. Like, oh, he's going to get fired.
Now there's no seriousness.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like, you think you're doing the right thing by trying to obstruct people's free will, like force things on them, be powerful, be bigger than them, but that's not the leader. You need to elevate them to meet them where you are. So if you're going around and you're like, I want to evenly distribute pressure. I want to make the links in the chain stronger. I want people to be as responsible as I am. You can't force that upon them. Responsibility is a choice they have to make for themselves.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Jocko Willink, we talk about him a lot, and I encourage people to...
Extreme ownership, Jocko.
But he had a guy that was... So he was in charge of the Navy SEALs in several different battles, but one in particular... They were there, I think, for a total of like a year or 2 years, something like that.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that time frame. So he had another guy named Leif Babin that was under him, that was the other officer that was underneath him and actually like organizing the missions and stuff like that. They were on a podcast together, and Leif Babin said, Jocko never once told me to do anything.
Yeah.
He goes, he was my leader. he never once told me to do anything.
That's a totally different layer.
And so Jocko, so they asked Jocko, they're like, well, how do you as a leader, and I'm thinking this too in my head. I'm like, how do you not tell people to do anything? So Jocko's whole thing was like, and he talks about this with decentralization and stuff like that. And you have to have good team members to have this happen. But I mean, it's all Navy SEAls. Trained to the tits.
You know what's going on. Yeah.
Everybody knows each other.
They don't have
Everybody
to fucking tell me. If I got to go do it, I know I got to go do it. Yeah.
Telepathy is happening in the SEALs. So, no, but he goes, I always ask people I always say, hey, here's what's asked of us to do. So we need to tonight take over this facility. Mm-hmm. Here's what the order is. Take over the facility and get this person. There's a hostage situation in there, and we need to do that. I would always ask, like, Leaf Babin, he'd be like, Leaf, how do you think we should handle that?
Right.
And then you go with your other team members and stuff like that, and you guys design something, then bring it back to me.
Well, that's what they did.
And have me see it.
They left, took responsibility.
Yeah.
Says, okay, if that's your COA.
Right.
I think that's the proper thing.
Yeah.
If that's your COA,
right,
then go do it.
And so,
but the thing is, they know they're going to do it.
Yeah, and then they would come back, and he would debrief with them and say, what went wrong? Did anybody die? That's the worst.
Yeah.
And then if they did, then it was always like, how did that happen? What went wrong? Where do we go? But it was really interesting at first. So the order was really clear. You know what I mean? Like this has to, and then there was a time frame, and that's the thing. As a leader, when I was young, I, in my head, had the expectations of what I wanted to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And my assistant at the time, she was ballsy enough to tell me this. I think you've met her.
Yeah.
She was my assistant for like 6 years, Melissa. At the time, she was ballsy enough to tell me, people can't read your mind, Jason.
Correct.
Like, I would assume people would just do things. Mm-hmm. Like, they would take ownership and do things automatically.
I still assume that.
Yeah.
It's still a problem for me. And when they don't do it, I'm like, are you shitting me? Like, what the hell?
But I mean, it's like, it's so funny because it's like, oh, did I make the objective clear? Mm-hmm. Did I turn around and did I give them, this sounds bad, but did I give them enough rope to hang themselves?
Yeah, no, and frankly,
did they find the rope?
Mm-hmm.
Did they, did they create that atmosphere?
Yeah.
So that there's accountability.
The environment.
Yeah, because there's ultimate accountability in a Navy SEAL team. Because if you don't go get the hostage,
you know what the difference is?
Or the hostage dies, you're fucked.
They signed up to be a Navy SEAL.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
They went through terrific training.
A lot of people were dealing with very normal human beings.
Yes.
They're very normal. They don't want pressure, life, soft. I don't want a lot of catalysts of negativity or anything that could possibly hurt me. I want to de-risk my life.
Yes.
Right? And you have other people on the opposite end of the spectrum, and
who are risk takers.
I love using the Navy SEALs as an example. The thing is, how do you essentially get a SEAL Team 6 out of regular people?
Yes. I mean, they all were regular people.
No, they all were, but
training.
But the mind changes, right?
I think any military person, because you have to really think, the military does a fucking great job.
Yeah.
So, dude, I was 19, 20. Mm-hmm. Here's a machine gun.
I know.
Here's fucking all the bullets. Here's grenades. You're in charge of all this.
Wait, what do you mean? What do you want me to do?
Here's a helicopter.
No.
You're in charge of that.
I hear that.
Hop on there.
Yeah.
And then the pilots are all in their like early 20s.
Yeah.
30s.
This is the cool part about teams, and which is a thing that naturally occurs in the military, is that you can't just be responsible for yourself anymore.
No, not at all.
I think that's the defining difference. When you start to feel responsibility for someone else's life, mm-hmm. right, in at least protecting them or like helping alleviate some of their pressures, knowing or at least hoping that they would do the same for you, it changes that dynamic. Say, for instance, when a lot of human beings, when they have their first child,
right?
Oh, it's no longer about me; it's about the kids. Okay, now you actually want to be responsible for something.
Yes,
that's a team now that is occurring, and I think when that point occurs, that's when the dynamic completely changes.
Right,
where you don't actually have to tell people what to do. They just know the requirement is the protection and longevity of this child.
Yes,
or this other human being.
Yes.
If I'm going to go climb Everest or K2 or something like that, Kilimanjaro, everybody knows that we're all going up together, but we have to do it as a team. There is protection of life.
Or else, somebody's going to die.
So I think if we take this a step further here in the leadership with these weak links in the chain,
right?
We need to redirect their attention to the end vision. What is the end goal?
Yes.
And that has to be hammered all the time.
Yeah, and they're not just hammering the end goal, but how are you specifically?
That's my point.
How are you specifically going to get there?
Yeah.
And how long is it going to take you to get there?
Right.
I mean, we run races for a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, in the Coliseum, there was games, and I know if you read ancient literature, it constantly talked about racing.
It's always
people raced.
Yeah.
They had overnight races. They had races that would last days in
Foot
Africa.
Races, equestrian races,
everywhere. There was always races. There's a finish line. Mm-hmm. There's a time frame, and there's winners and losers.
Yeah.
And you need that in business. This whole thing of where everybody gets a participation trophy and everybody you're creating. You have to have competition in a team.
It has to be there.
Yes.
And I think when you clearly delineate responsibility, not only vision but responsibility tells them the start and the finish.
Yes.
Here's where your job starts.
Right.
Here's where your job ends. So how do you get to the end line every single day?
Also, not only just sharing that with them, but also sharing how the team fails if you don't get there. As a leader, you can say, hey, here's how badass responsibility is of you. If this doesn't get done, here's what's going to happen. I'm the leader, and I see the big picture. Here's the dominoes that are going to fall if this doesn't get done. And I'm trusting you to accomplish this, to get it done, because I know that you can. So it's almost, I was talking to my girlfriend on this. It's almost like you can see the best in somebody or you can see the worst in somebody.
Correct.
And I think that we were talking about love, and it's like, not to get too crazy, but in relationship, and that's at work too, same thing. In a relationship, it's you have a choice to look at that person in two different lenses.
Yeah.
And if you're always wanting the best and seeing the best in someone, if you love them, I mean you have a fiance. If you love them, then it's like your lens and filter is going to be totally different. The way when they do something, that lens is going to come out. If you're thinking the worst of them and thinking like they're a scoundrel, they're going to cheat me out of money, they're going to they're going to cheat on me with another woman or man, they're always like this anti, conspiracy theories in your relationship.
Yeah.
I need to check their phone. I need to look at this shit. I need to know, all the stuff that's real life in relationships. That's thinking the worst of them.
Right.
If you think the best of them, it's like, no, they wouldn't do that. You see what I'm saying? Now that is having a level of, I don't like to use this word, but faith in the sense of, but it's really not, because, and this is with leadership, and I'll have you talking this is with leadership too. When you're looking for the best in person and then you're holding them accountable in that, and then you're giving them timelines, people naturally, if they're a good person,
will step up to that role.
They will be inspired.
Mm-hmm.
That's where a leader inspires them. Ronald Reagan's really good with this. I think I have it laying around here somewhere. He doesn't. It's a little marble thing. His whole thing was, I don't need to take any credit. Like, I don't want to take any credit. I'm going to dish the credit off purposely. I'm going to say, hey, this person did this. Great job.
Yeah.
And I would let everybody else know, even though I did most of the work or got as a catalyst and I was the leader that got it done, I'd always give. And I learned that. So that was one thing I've done in leadership is, and even when we do it, we have meetings or whatever, I'm like, this person did this. This is awesome.
Correct.
And they know inside of themselves whether they worked really hard or not.
Right. No, you're 100% correct. And you know what? Everybody has capacity and capability.
Yes.
And I know I'm a human being just like they are. And I know what I am capable of.
Mm-hmm.
And that took time. But I know, I can see that they don't push themselves.
Right.
I know that they're capable of more. I know they have the capacity for it. They're just too scared to put that foot forward.
Yeah, it's not. It would be the same. It would be the same as if you look at, and we'll get out of the military analogy. Let's just go into corporate world. So maybe it's Google, right?
Mm-hmm. And
they have the little Google teams or whatever, and they have them set up. I've read books on this. They have them set up where there's no really work schedule. There's nothing. A lot of people, because of rent is so expensive, they have a thing just like you have in the parking lot.
Oh, yeah, camper van.
Yeah, they have. There's tons of camper vans all over the parking at Google, and because they know they can go inside Google, and Google has a cafeteria,
showers.
You
Gym.
can sleep. There's a gym in there and everything else. So you have like flexible work schedules, flexible things, but Google's getting tons of shit done constantly, 24/7.
Yeah.
Like that's such a behemoth big tech company. And we talk about them all the time on Tartar.co, TCAS podcast.
But why though?
Why is it getting done?
Because there's another person ready to take that individual's spot.
Yes.
So Google doesn't have to be like, hey.
Globally.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, we're like, you need to do this right now. It's like, no. You know what has to be done.
Right.
And if you don't do it, somebody else will do it.
And it's so interesting because I was listening to one little team member, and there was one team member that likes to run at 4:00 in the morning and then gets to work at 5:36 and then works the day. And there was another team member that's like, fuck that. Same team. I don't start work till like 11 o'clock at night.
Okay.
But all of them were gelling and getting and communicating and getting things done. There was execution, which is really important. And then there was an end product that got done in a certain time frame. If this is really interesting with Google, if they failed several times, they would restructure the team. They have documents. Google has documents in place on how to do that. So they just reshuffle the team because we're not going to fire the person because we need to give them another chance to see if it was a bad team.
They're just not appropriate in that role.
Maybe
amongst
in that team.
dynamic.
But they can go to another team and flourish.
Well,
so they would just always constantly restructure the team and then put them in there and then see if that person. So if they go to 3 teams and all 3 teams they've done shitty, you're out.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Yeah,
because I've seen that before. Just within rowing, there may just be you have 8 people pulling oars.
Yeah,
and one person could throw the entire dynamic off. But when you shift them out and someone else comes in, the whole thing may sing. But you don't know that, so you can't just like toss it to the wayside immediately. You have to give it the opportunity. But in order to do that shuffling, the job has to be clearly delineated.
Yeah.
I get in a boat, I hold the oar, I pull it as fast as fucking possible to get to the other side.
Yes.
I come to work, I do this stuff, I do it well, and I do it as quickly as possible to get to the other side. If I'm not achieving that, then either the role isn't for me,
right,
or this group isn't for me.
Yeah.
But people have to be honest with themselves. They have to be honest in their personality because through time, the quantitative data of your outputs of the work you do will show through.
100%.
Okay? And people will complain when you call them out. But it's important as a leader to be there with them. When you're on the beach becoming a SEAL, that team, every single member, even if one guy will lead the SEAL team, he still did the same training. Mm-hmm. He still picked the boat up. He still got headbutted underneath the pool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those things still happen. So as a leader, don't ivory tower it. Be there with them. Right. Show them that you are responsible. Lead by example. And then empower them to be responsible with themselves. Clearly delineate.
I think that's perfectly said. I do want to, as we close, I want to let people know about another podcast that we do. And we've done, series. We've done 2 big series. One's going on right this minute.
Yep.
We did a White Sands incident, which was like 23 parts.
Can I talk about that real quick?
Yeah.
I go into Trader Joe's here locally. This guy stops me at the register. Hey. I'm like, yeah? Love your podcast. And I'm
that's
like,
awesome.
I'm like, what? I'm like, you can't. I'm like, oh my God, I got a fan. I've been podcasting for years.
Yeah.
And he said, the stuff you and Jason talk about on higher density living,
right?
That stuff I want to listen to.
Right.
I'm like, that's super cool. I said, thank you so much. Anyway, that's my point. And he said, White Sands incident, so cool.
Yeah. So, and that's New Mexico. Mm-hmm. And this is ABQ podcast. So we've done 2 episodes. Hard Incident. If you like spiritual things, we talk about aliens. We've gotten into conspiracy theories. We got into a lot of stuff.
Everything under the sun.
If you enjoyed that, go to Higher Density Living. It's on Spotify, Apple, all of them. We encourage you to please subscribe to that. Let us know you're listening to the show. We'd love it. You can also go to higherdensityliving.com. Mm-hmm. A ton of articles on there. We talk about food and different ways and how different ways to eat, yoga. We've talked about it all.
I don't even, what do we not talk about?
Chakras. We've talked about everything. But and maybe you can talk about this one too real quick, is the one that was going on right now is the Ronnie Zamora incident that was here in New Mexico. And that was pretty serious alien action.
Yeah, Lonnie Zamora was interesting because Lonnie Zamora was a police officer.
Right.
And just going south on 25 before Socorro, he's essentially witnessing these 2 extraterrestrials in their suits and everything. And he's running up towards the crash because they were trying to fix their craft. But he was in the middle of a police chase, chasing some teenager who was speeding. And he's like, wait a minute, what the hell? What's going on over here? What's with the sagebrush?
Yes.
Blah, 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 blah. Well, lo and behold, he's over there. You got imprints in the sand. Radiological levels are increased. He sees two beings that are out there, describes the suits, describes the writing on the ship, watches it take off. But there's a lot of interesting things about the dynamics of the whole situation that are worth looking at.
Yeah, and I think right now part 4 is out. I don't know how many parts we did. I don't remember. But I know we did. We got into it pretty detailed. And my tattoo artist was funny. He DM'd me on Instagram. He goes, "This is my favorite episodes by far on higher density living."
How funny is that?
Yeah, it was that he loved the Ronnie Zamora. He loves the Ronnie Zamora ones. So I encourage people, higherdensityliving.com and Tartle.co. Our other sponsors, sign up, start taking control of
your data, and also helping the world and other people at the same time.
Thank you for joining us on the Albuquerque Business Podcast. And thanks to our sponsor, RigbyDigital.com. Make sure to subscribe and share. And go to ABQPodcast.com. Get show notes, resources, and links to everything we talked about today to help you navigate your journey as an entrepreneur and business owner.